coming up on 5 to 10 in the D.
I am convinced that the main reason urban poverty continues to exist in America is because we have not yet learned how to play well with each other across race and socioeconomic differences. And I've also found that if you try to invite two people who are polar opposites on issues of race, religion, or politics to sit down at a table, look each other in the eye, have a conversation, and work it out, 9 times out of 10, that's not a very productive conversation. But if you're able to invite those same two people to work shoulder to shoulder on a project they both agree on, something magical happens in the process.
Hey everyone, welcome to 5 to 10 in the D. I'm sitting here with Chris Lambert, the founder and CEO of Life Remodeled, a Detroit nonprofit organization committed to remodeling lives one neighborhood at a time. Chris, thank you for being on 5 to 10 in the D.
Thank you, John, for having me. Thank you for taking an investment here in the city of Detroit.
Yeah, absolutely. So you guys are celebrating your 10th anniversary in 2020.
Crazy.
So 10 years, Life Remodeled. You've had a huge impact on this city. Let's go back to the very beginning. So 2010?
Yes.
How did all this start?
So I would say the big why behind why we do what we do, why I get out of bed every day, why I'm so excited to keep leading Life Remodeled, and that's what drove us all the way from the beginning, is I am convinced that the main reason urban poverty continues to exist in America is because we have not yet learned how to play well with each other across race and socioeconomic differences. And I've also found that if you try to invite two people who are polar opposites on issues of race, religion, or politics to sit down at a table, look each other in the eye, have a conversation, and work it out, 9 times out of 10, that's not a very productive conversation. But if you're able to invite those same two people to work shoulder to shoulder on a project they both agree on, something magical happens in the process. And so that's why one of the things we do every year is we mobilize large numbers of people. Now we're mobilizing over 10,000 volunteers in 6 days. Wow. Because something really powerful happens relationally when we work together. But our initial project was much smaller. Now, at the time, it was astronomical, and it was unachievable, just like everything we do now every year, because we just keep getting crazier and crazier. But the original idea actually came when I was having an off-the-wall conversation with someone that asked me if I'd ever thought about doing a reality TV show. And I said, no, I had not. And the guy said, well, I've got this concept for a show, kind of like this show called Clean House. I think you'd be really good at it. I'm like, I saw that show, Clean House, once. And then I said 2 things to him I'd never said in my life. I said, number 1, I think that show sucks. I said, number 2, if I was going to do a show, I'd probably do something more like Extreme Makeover Home Edition, but more holistic.
Yeah.
End of discussion. Now, I'd watched Extreme Makeover a few times.
Yeah.
I would cry every time, right when the producer wanted me to, move that bus. Oh my gosh, everybody's crying, I'm crying. But I would always think to myself, you know what, I don't think this is the best thing to do for these families, to give them these massive homes and then walk away. And then I learned that anywhere between 17 and 25% of families were actually losing their homes within the first 2 to 5 years.
Yeah.
So I came up with my wife and other pastors in our church. I was a church planner at the time. Okay. With a strategy that was like Extreme Makeover, but more holistic. It was, let's build a house in 6 days, give it away to a low-income family for free, a modest home. But let's take the family through financial training, set them up with a financial advisor. Let's set them up with a clinical psychologist so they can process family dynamics. Let's offer spiritual guidance, which they could accept or reject. And then let's invest in the surrounding neighborhood, not just the one home. So at the time, the church I pastored and founded had less than 200 people.
Yeah.
We had about $8,000 in the bank.
Yeah.
Only 2 of the members of our congregation were not blue collar. We had no influence. We had 0% probability of
everything was going against you.
Everything.
All the odds were against you.
So the idea came in March of 2010. 1 year later, in April of 2011, we did everything I just told you, including we produced a reality TV show pilot because we thought that this show was going to become the next big show and it was going to pay for everything and we'd never have to raise money. And then we produced a show. We played it at the Imagine Theater. We got a producer out in LA that said, I want to pick it up. Just before he signed the contract, he backed out of it. He said, no, my company took a big hit. I'm not taking on anything new. The whole show fell apart. And we thought, well, there goes that. You know, and I was asking God, I thought you had bigger plans for this. And I started getting all these phone calls from churches that said, we want to do what you did in our city. Can you help us do it? And I said, yeah, absolutely. So we ended up working with over 20 churches in 2012. And we worked in 4 cities. Same project, brand new house in 6 days. We helped out 4 different families, a family in Pontiac, Redford, Hazel Park, Farmington Hills. And it was a very impactful year. Then we moved to Detroit in 2013, same style project, but this time we had 5,000 volunteers.
Okay.
Then Detroiters told us how they felt about us giving away 1 house to 1 family for free. They said, well, what does that do for me? And I said, well, I guess you're kind of right. It doesn't do a whole lot for you, does it? And so I talked to our board. I said, what if we started renovating schools? And our board, no one at the time knew anybody from Detroit Public Schools, and I made a cold call. Within 2 weeks, I was sitting in the office of the chief operating officer and all the top leaders of the organization. And I said, we want to renovate a school. They said, go for it. They were $500 million in debt, so they had nothing to lose. And long story short, within the next year, we went from a $300,000 project to a $5 million project, and here we are.
Wow. Wow. So it sounds like you went from this very individualistic approach to like one house to like more of a neighborhood approach.
Yes.
And it sounds like that's kind of like where some of these reality shows you were talking about, we're getting it wrong. Maybe.
Yes, I would agree. And we tried to do the neighborhood approach from day one. So even our original vision was investing in the surrounding neighborhood.
Yeah.
But it certainly was nowhere near at the level we're able to do it now. And every year we're continuing to learn and to refine our processes and really discover what does equitable neighborhood revitalization really look like.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty happy with where we are today, but it's been quite a journey.
That's awesome. So like, what does your mission look like from when you first started to where it is today?
Yeah.
Has it changed?
I would say the mission's the same. The strategy has changed drastically.
Yeah.
And so it went from 1 house, then it went to multiple cities, then it moved to Detroit, then it went to renovating existing high schools. So for 3 straight years, we were in 3 different neighborhoods: Cody, then Osborne, then Denby.
Yeah.
And that was all about renovating the existing high school, and we were in and we were out.
Okay.
With this project that we're in right now, we've taken a much more holistic approach, a much deeper, a much longer term approach. So we're sitting in a former school building right now. And this building, when we got here, was an elementary middle school. We were originally going to renovate Central High School, and the principal had this phenomenal idea because they used to have 4,000 students back in the day at that high school.
Yeah.
They now have only about 262 kids.
Okay.
So they were using very little of their building. He wanted us to take the whole building, take the first floor, turn it into a business incubator, and create proximity between high school students and entrepreneurs, and morph the curriculum around entrepreneurism. We loved the idea. We took it to the district. They said, we love the idea, but you can't do it at Central because we're going to move all the kids from Durfee, this building, to Central. Why don't you guys take Durfee? Originally, I said no. Some time went by, talked to our board, talked to others. We said yes. And so this strategy now is much more comprehensive in that we've actually developed this entire building.
Yeah.
It's 143,000 square feet. And the best way I can describe...
How old is this building?
It was built in 1927.
Wow.
And there used to be an elementary next door called Roosevelt. This was actually the first kindergarten through 12th grade campus in the United States of America.
Wow.
So a lot of history.
A lot of history. Yeah.
This is also just down the street is where the 1967 uprising, or what many call the Detroit riots, started.
Okay.
And you got Boston Edison 2 blocks to the south, Russell Woods up the street. So it's a very historical community.
Yeah.
And so now what we're doing is we've turned this building into a one-stop shop of opportunity where we're filling it with the best and brightest organizations. So instead of us trying to create new programs, we're partnering with the best programs and bringing them here. And to be in this building, you have to move the needle on one of 4 areas.
Okay.
Either education, workforce, entrepreneurism, or human services.
Okay.
And we're measuring that impact collectively and really communicating what does neighborhood revitalization look like with an opportunity hub.
Yeah. How is of all these neighborhoods that you guys have had an impact on, have those neighborhoods managed to sustain themselves after you guys going in and?
Yes and no. So one of the false assumptions I used to have is, I told you we do a 6-day project every year with 10,000 volunteers. I used to think the measure of success was what do those blocks look like the following year after we've cleaned them up, right? And so I started driving around to blocks in Cody and Osborne after 2014 and 2015. And I would find blocks that looked just as good as the day the project was over. Then I would find other blocks that look almost as bad as before the project began. And I was under the assumption that, hey, once we come in and clean it up, all of a sudden, everybody's gonna come out and start taking care of all this vacant property. And that was a very wrong assumption, because I learned that this city had 1.8 million people. We now have about 650,000. And so many people live on blocks where the question for them that week is, am I gonna mow my block? Now, I live in Detroit. I have a very small yard. And I'm gonna admit to you, there are weeks that go by when I'm like, I don't want to mow my lawn today. I got too much going on. You certainly aren't going to convince me to mow the vacant property to my left and to my right. It's not going to happen. And so the city does not have the capacity to maintain all of this vacant property regularly. So ongoing volunteerism is so important. So in some senses, the answer is yes and no when it comes to physical appearance. But I can tell you, a lot has changed positively. So in Cody Rouge, the Detroit Police Department measured crime 1 year following our project. Crime dropped in 10 out of 11 categories on the 300 blocks where we worked, including a 47% reduction in homicides. So, if we're talking about lasting change, that's pretty significant.
That's huge.
And what I've discovered in this process, though, is it takes a whole lot more than a 1 year in and out investment. And so in Cody and Osborne,
it's not a love them and leave them kind of thing. You got to be really, there's got to be more than that. It's got to be a continuous thing.
We've been able to form partnerships like Oak Point Church made a long-term commitment to Cody High School. Rock Point Church made a long-term commitment to Osborne. General Motors has jumped in big in Cody, Quicken Loans, and several others. And that's been fantastic, but nothing has had the kind of investment that we're seeing now that we've created this space where people can work together collaboratively and really move the needle. And often nonprofits are living in silos, and this allows them to work collaboratively and to pass on the baton so that no nonprofit has the solutions to all the world's challenges or all society's challenges. But when we work together, we get a lot done.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So, here we are, 2020. It's your 10th anniversary. What are some of the challenges facing this new year, this 10th anniversary, and what are some of the things you guys want to accomplish this year?
Sure, like every nonprofit, every nonprofit has the same challenge, right? Fundraising. And it really is a challenge to be able to consistently get in dollars year after year after year. But we've seen some amazing momentum. So I'm very excited about 2020, and it's really exciting to be at a place of maturing as an organization, where we're not just, now projecting, hey, here's what could be if you donate. We can now show people this is what your donations do. This is what education now looks like next door. And one of our goals, not only this year, but over the next 5 years, is to make sure Durfee and Central become the most improved schools in Detroit. Let me put that in context. Right now, only 14% of kids in Detroit schools, public and charter, can currently read at grade level. Next door, only 1.2% of kids 3rd grade through 8th grade are reading at grade level. 76% of the high school kids are chronically absent. So now that we've created this access to high quality after school programming, we're confident that we're going to be able to help the school move the needle and become most improved within 5 years.
Wow. So how can people and or organizations what do you need this year? How can we get involved?
Well, I would turn that question around to you and to all of your viewers, and I would really I want to find out from each and every person, who are they, what gets them out of bed in the morning, what are their skills, what are their passions, and I think we have a fit for almost anybody. Unless your passion is puppies or cats, which is great if it is, but we don't have that. But we literally have something for everybody. We've got 2 foster care and adoption agencies. We've got a group that works with 800 senior citizens, and we've got tons of after-school youth programming in between. So literally from the womb to senior citizen. So if you like to read to kids or you like to be involved in coaching businesses and entrepreneurs to be successful, there's literally something for almost everybody. And then our 6-day project is, of course, the easiest on-ramp, which will be August 3rd through the 8th.
Okay.
We'll have over 10,000 volunteers. We'll be investing in this same neighborhood. And you can show up don't bring any tools because we provide all of them. We provide you a free lunch, free t-shirt. And it's a pretty powerful experience.
It really is, and I've done it, and I want to do it again this year.
Thank you.
It was amazing to be in this building and just see thousands of people out here working together, coming together in community, and that we so need that, just as a people, right? And because we're so divided in this country, and I think what you guys are doing is so important beyond just remodeling buildings, but bringing people's lives together.
Yes.
And God bless you for that, man.
Thanks, bro. Praise God, man. He gets all the credit.
Absolutely. So I have to ask you. So you've been doing this 10 years. Like, how has this changed you? I know you're a man of faith, but how have you grown?
So we intentionally call this Life Remodeled, not Detroit Remodeled.
Yeah.
Because we all need our lives remodeled.
Yes, we do.
And we all have a lot to offer. So my life's been remodeled tremendously. I like to say that the reason I do what I do is I want to be like this certain Jewish construction worker who lived about 2,000 years ago. He was brutally murdered, came back to life, and remodeled my life.
Yeah, mine too.
And I'm actually really passionate about sharing my faith. And I've found that I've actually been able to share my faith more through Life Remodeled than I ever was as a pastor.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, the church in America is known for a whole lot of talk and not a lot of action. Yeah. And when people see action, they want to know why you do it and what's causing it to be successful. So, I have to tell my story, right? Which is really God's story. And in the process, He has begun to shape in me even far more passion for people who are marginalized than I ever had, and far more understanding. The truth is, I have had more to learn from the city of Detroit than I have had to give. And race plays a massive role in the way things roll out in the United States of America. I was very ignorant to that. I was very uninformed to those realities. And one of the things I learned about, being white is that I never had to ask myself about my race my entire childhood. And when I would fill out on a form, Caucasian, I didn't even know what that word meant, because to be white is to never have to ask about your race. Right. Whereas I've learned to see life through the eyes of people of color who are unfortunately negatively impacted by very significant systems, which I was fully unaware of. Yeah. And I'm just starting to learn, so I've got a lot of remodeling to go, but it's been a phenomenal process.
Man, you're opening my eyes to a lot of things. I need to do the same thing, and thank you for that inspiration. And this is such an important episode, I believe, and you're impacting my life, and that's what we do, and we all want to pay it forward. So thank you, Chris.
Thanks
for
John.
being on 5-10 League. God bless you.
My pleasure. God bless you, brother.
The work you guys are doing.
All right.
Hey everyone, thanks again for watching 5-10 in the D and our interview with Chris Lambert. If you and or your organization want to get involved with Life Remodeled, visit liferemodeled.com. There are plenty of opportunities for you to volunteer, and I know Chris and the staff would love to see you out there. Also, go on and check out their development at Durfee Innovation Society. The address is right here. It's an amazing glimpse of the great work that Life Remodeled has done in Detroit in the last 10 years and the difference that they're making in the city. I really encourage you to go check it out. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time on 5-10 in the D.